And that's for everything, the initial and the confirmation. I mean, because they do an initial screen and then they do the confirmation. If the initial screen shows positive for anything, then they do the initial, or then they do the confirmation. So doing the screen for $46 and then a confirmation for another $60, that's $100 a UA.
So again, I just want to bring us back to, right, like Rachel Mark did go over kind of some of the differences. So we do need to kind of keep it focused on, of course, if you want to find a different reduction amount, totally fine, but we want to keep it on the costs that are being reported for mental health courts.
I understand that, but there's a range, so I'm confused on, so there's a range of UAs from 26 to 46. And yet they budgeted for 46. So I'm not sure where the average is, or are we just doing the high end and we'll take some low ones and maybe have some more in there? That's what's confusing me.
Sure. Rachel, go ahead.
Again, not wanting to comment on any specific applications. I think just kind of adding to what you said about the different tests cost different things in different places. One sliver that I didn't add on this front is recognizing that some tests are super expensive and others are a little more affordable. Programs will often rotate in doing a really sophisticated test, kind of sprinkled in amidst other tests that are less costly. And that being said, the ideal is to do the more comprehensive tests whenever finances allow. So I kind of hear what you're saying, Jake, and I think from a big picture, looking at maybe not everything is going to cost that high-end amount, but recognizing that there's a range for a very legitimate reason, and the idea of kind of sprinkling in different types of tests along the way would be a cost-effective way of trying to do your best possible supervision of people and their substance use.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd say the main thing, one of my main takeaways from all of this is it would be great if we could do a state of Oregon consistent, more affordable funding for these UAs, because they are so all over the board. But that seems like a big future goal for some other committee. But I'm inclined, I agree, I want to support this funding. But I see the issues with it. So I think what Connie was saying made sense to me. And so I would support, which I think was to 70%. So I would support that moving forward.
All right. So I'm seeing Annie, Connie, and Judge Kitson-McCaddish are all giving me nods and thumbs up, which that is the majority. So just to be clear, the recommendation from the majority of the GRC is to further reduce assured drug detection to 70% in reflection of the participant numbers that were reported. Is that correct? All right. All right, moving on. I do want to just take a minute. So we have, I believe, if my counting is correct, we have 3 mental health courts left, and it's 4:25. So do we want to power through and try and make it through the mental health courts today? Is that our plan? Go ahead, Connie.
I was just wondering at what time are we going to go back and review the adult drug courts that we had set aside?
I think my plan, unless you have objections, was that we do that tomorrow as we go through the additional courts. At the very end, we'd go back to this.
Okay.
If
and
anyone
I think
has
we should power through.
Okay, here we go. Let's power. Next up, we have Multnomah County Mental Health Court. They did not add any additions to the narrative portion, so we just have your GRC feedback here. Now, their average participation is 91. Their completion rate is 58%, and their spending is at 58%. Now, if I can, I'm going to go over to some line items, and then we'll come back to this. So the QMHP positions and nurse practitioner staff recommendation is to reduce them all to 80% due to the lack of explanation of their FTE request. Similarly, UA supplies were reduced by 20%, again, due to that lack of breakdown of how funds would be used or specificity of what was to be purchased. And then beyond that, they were prioritized using their sheet, using scenario B.
So you said 91 participants
Correct, is their average.
and they serve low and high risk?
They shouldn't. They should be serving medium to high. So with all that, do we have, oh, go ahead, Connie, I cut you off.
Oh, I noticed you had made a recommendation to reduce the QMHPs and nurse practitioner by 20%, but there was nothing about the certified alcohol and drug counselor being reduced. And I feel like the explanation in the narrative is kind of lacking there.
Okay, do you want to make an additional recommendation to reduce that by the 20% as well for the same reason?
Yes, I would.
How does the rest of the GRC, or do you all agree with that recommendation for consistency?
That seems consistent. And I think the same comment goes for this Multnomah County application as the other ones, that we would really benefit from a little bit more information, and if they're listening, or if there is ever feedback provided, that they provide a little more information in both their narrative and the specifications that are missing that we're kind of digging them for. And with that, I'd be fine forwarding the recommendation on.
Okay, so just to reiterate and make sure we're being clear, the reduction that you all are recommending is all contractual services reduced down to the 80% due to lack of an explanation of that FTE request. Okay, any additional recommendations? And also, I will note, Annie, to your point, my understanding, and Rachel Mark, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, is that OJD does take copious notes, and you are able to give feedback as needed. Is that correct? I don't know if you want to speak to what that feedback looks like from you.
For this, since it's a public meeting, we definitely have encouraged folks to watch along or watch the videos. We definitely have taken some notes along the way as far as constructive feedback to help for future applications. And I know some of the programs are watching right now and are actively listening to the feedback that you all are giving. So yes, lots of different ways that they are getting opportunities to learn how to approach the applications in the future.
Thanks so much. All right, next up, we have Yamhill County Mental Health Court. They noted a new coordinator was onboarded in March of this year. They also noted that the county has agreed to administer UAs to participants on evenings and weekends. There has been a coordinating meeting, or excuse me, there was a coordinator meeting with the judge in June to begin implementation of that new evening weekend UA administration. They clarified that they only serve moderate to high risk and moderate to high need. They clarified that they do not use jail for treatment, only as a last resort sanction. The team meets bi-weekly and all members attend staffing. They clarified that the judge does spend a minimum of 3 minutes with each participant. Now they are another court that has requested funding for incentives camp. And they met with the community justice director in June of 2025, so last month, to begin discussing the standing up of an advisory committee. So with that, I don't have a ton of more information for you all on this one. All of their cuts were based on their prioritization sheet, getting to that scaled cap. Didn't have any additional cuts. Oh, sorry. And oh man, you can tell it's getting to the end of the day. Average participation was 10, their completion was 50%, and their spending is at 71%. So that is why staff recommended full funding. All right, I'm seeing thumbs up, which I am assuming means no additional recommendations. Right, next up, we have Clackamas County Mental Health Court. They noted that they will convene their policy committee at least quarterly and will stand up an advisory committee. They plan to continue to expand access to services to ensure proper dosage and avoid mixing risk levels. The team will use validated risk and assessment tools and monitor program services and outcomes. They plan to broaden their incentive options to meet that 4-to-1 minimum ratio. They did clarify that all treatment court team members attend staffing. They do plan to continue that increased use of SCMS. And they did clarify that they do and will continue to provide services to those whose preferred language isn't English. Now, their average participation is 36. Their completion rate, Rachel Mark, I'm going to ask if you can look up their completion rate. I think I have a misprint on this. I think their completion rate is more than 4%. Please hold for that information. But their average participation is 36 and their spending is 47%. Now with that, again, average participation 36, we recommended that regional toxicology was reduced to that average of 36 participants since no information was given as to why it would increase. And then housing, we recommended the reduction of all housing down to that 80% because of the lack of breakdown of how funds would be utilized. The rest of the reductions were due to their prioritization or via their prioritization sheet.
Sorry, can you go forward one again?
Of course.
On the, okay. Okay, thanks.
Of course. And per their scorecard, thank you. I'm so sorry. I had a misprint there, but we were corrected as over 4%. Their completion rate is at 48%. Thank you, Rachel, for that additional info.
I'm fine with these reductions and the recommendation.
All right. Do we have, I'm seeing some head nodding. Is that the consensus of the GRC or the majority of the GRC agrees? All right. Okay, so now we have a couple options, folks. It is 4:36. So we could do a couple things. We could go back to the adult drug courts and review those in the next half hour if we wanted to. We could keep plowing on and going through family treatment courts. We also do have a couple court types that have fewer numbers of applicants. I want to say, for instance, our DUI courts, there's only 2. If you wanted to jump over trying to keep to that 5 o'clock limit. So I leave it up to you all as members of the GRC, what you would like to do if you want to utilize this half hour.
Am I right in reading that tomorrow we have a lot, we have fewer? We went
You
through
do.
the majority of them today.
We did go through, we made it through both adult drug courts and mental health courts, which are the two largest amounts. So going forward, we have family treatment courts, the juvenile courts, and DUI courts and veterans treatment courts. So still a good chunk by all means, but not quite as many. However, I do want to acknowledge that we will have to take some breaks to get you that final number. So there is like a little bit of downtime just to allow us as staff to make sure that we're giving you actual numbers to make recommendations on.
I'd be inclined to, if anything, go to one of the smaller groups or the review of the other ones, or save them all for tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it appears
Oh, Jake, you got muted.
as though we'll have 17
Yeah,
applications or budgets to review tomorrow.
19 is the amount that I was given, so somewhere in there.
I'm happy doing the DUI ones, the smaller ones now, and then,
All right, let's do it. Bear with me here while I get to that. In fact, I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment and then I'll come back.
Oh, God.
All right. Sorry, I was hoping that I wouldn't have to make you all watch me, but it's not letting me do that.
On the Dewey courts, do the same requirement, is it the same like for training and everything, the limitations on them? Everything's the
Correct.
same. Okay. And that's through all of the treatment courts then, the juvenile and everything?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, those line item reductions were across court types.
Okay.
Same, of course, with unallowables. Obviously, it's for all the court types. And admin costs are that 10% or less. All right. So to our DUI treatment courts. So first up, we have Multnomah County DUI Court. They did not have any additional responses to feedback beyond what was in their budget narrative. So they have, oh, go ahead, Kelsey.
I don't know if I can consider this as maybe just a curiosity question, but for Multnomah County, they have so many programs. Do they have the same coordinators for all of their programs? Because
No.
none of them provided responses. So I didn't know if that was like a conscious decision or they have the same employee handling all their grant management.
I cannot speak to whether they received guidance around, I can't speak to any of that, but I can tell you that each court has a different coordinator.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so their average participation for Multnomah DISC for DUI court is 44. Their completion percentage is 76%, and their spending was at 55%. So I am, again, going to go over to this additional information slide, and we can go back. We recommended cutting the program manager completely, as from their narrative, we couldn't tell how the duties of that program manager weren't duplicative of the court coordinator. We also recommended cutting their intake, pre-engagement, and court participation lines in contractual services, as it was unclear what position this was funding and how these roles again differed from the court coordinator.
So under the contractual, I see the SCRAM monitoring, SCRAM remote breath and GPS. Is that just standard for all participants in a Dewey court?
That is a great question for our expert, Rachel Mark.
Please ask me that one more time.
Under the contractual, it has like the SCRAM and remote breathalyzer and stuff. Is that standard for all people in Dewey court to have those?
Yes,
Okay.
that I would say all of the enhanced alcohol monitoring and kind of more 24/7 supervision is going to be very common in your DUI treatment court programs based on that model and the public safety risks of that population.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or recommendations for Multnomah DUI Court or DISP?
All my comments you guys covered in your cuts that were already made, so I'm supportive of this.
All right. I'm seeing some thumbs up and some head nods. So unless I hear otherwise, we'll move to our next one. So next up, we have Clackamas County DUI Court. They noted that they plan to convene their policy committee at least quarterly and their advisory committee to meet annually. They clarified their use of risk needs assessment tools to deliver proper dosage. They did note that they'll monitor with ongoing program evaluation. They did clarify that they avoid mixing low-risk individuals with their medium and high risk. They have plans to broaden their incentive options and align to that 4-to-1 incentive to sanction ratio. All team members do participate in scheduled pre-court staffings. They have and will continue to increase the use of SCMS, and they have and will continue to provide services to participants whose preferred language isn't English. They have added a bilingual and Spanish-speaking counselor to their team as part of that. Their average participation for Clackamas DUI is 26. They have a completion rate of 79%, and their spending is at 76%. Now, I do want to note that in contractual services, we as staff recommended the reduction of all contractual services or both contractual services from 45 to 38 participants. And then due to that reduction, we also, their admin needed to be reduced as well.
And you said they have 26 participants, but the recommendation was to cut it to 38 as the number.
Yes.
Okay. So like allowing for some growth.
Yes, exactly. Yes, if I would have read the note, the next under is and room for growth. Yes, that is what we did. All right, any additional recommendations for Clackamas DUI? All right, that's for today. We have made it through. All right, so we have, it will be the GRC's choice. It's 4:45, so if you would like to continue going through any courts, if you want to revisit any of the adult drug courts that we said we were going to wait and go back over, we can do that. We can leave the meeting 15 minutes early with the knowledge that we're coming back tomorrow. I'd offer to karaoke, but that feels inappropriate on a public meeting. You can tell me.
I'm inclined to break for the day, but I will happily continue if others think otherwise. Well, maybe not happily.
I think we should be done for today. I feel like my brain is done.
I agree. Do we have to take public comments?
A great question. My understanding was we would take public comment at the end of when we had made it through all the courts, but I am going to look to my colleagues. I got that is correct. So we will do public comment tomorrow after we get through making recommendations for all the courts.
So I have a semi-public comment though that I have to share with you. I'm a grandma of a little girl as of yesterday.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
I've got many grandsons, but this is the first granddaughter. So
Do you feel comfortable sharing her first name?
Lainey.
Lainey. How sweet. Well, congratulations. I hope everyone is doing well.
They are.
All right, folks. Well, great work. We made it through a lot of courts. So thank you for your time and your energy. We will see you back here bright and early at 9 a.m. To get the rest of the way through our adult drug courts. We'll get through our JDTCs, our family treatment courts, and our veterans treatment courts. And then we'll make some final recommendations to the GRC. So we will reconvene tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for your time.